Alright, welcome to my channel, this is Lockshot. What I'm going over today again is this EVVA 3KS. I should have put this as the first video. Just want to talk about how the lock actually works, how the beating works, how the key control and all works, and one thing is how to get this thing gutted. Alright, so the key works fine. So just so you know, I've already removed the C-clip off the back, but with the C-clip off, the core will not push out with the key in it. And the reason it is, some of the sliders, when the key goes in, get pushed out of the core a little bit, and I'll show you that once I pull this out. But two ways I found to get it. I'm sure there may be more. One is with a gut key, which I do recommend. This 3D printed gut key. You can find it in the LPU Discord server. I think under the STL dumpster or something. But anyway, one way to get this is hold the lock so that the key is parallel to the ground or to your mat, and slowly pull out the key. What this does is it aligns the sliders to the center, because most of the keys, they go toward the center, before they exit the key. So then what you can do is start to push. Maybe you need to rotate just a little bit, just to wiggle it to get those ball bearings to release. But then the core will start coming on out. Alright, I don't recommend this one too much because you can dump all your sliders really easy, and take my word for it, they will come out very, very easily. And then you're trying to figure out the beating. Alright, so the other way is with this. So even with these, because if you look, their gravity, there's no spring on the sliders, and you can see them falling as I rotate the lock. They move around, and as I turn it again, you can see them sliding to the other side. So there's nothing holding the sliders in place except when you stick something in there to keep them center. Like right now, this moves them all to the center. It's just like the tip of the key right there. Alright, so once this is in there, I give it a little wiggle, and it'll pull the core out. Okay, so what I want to show you is why you can't pull it out with the key in it. And the reason is, if you'll look right there, there's a slider stuck out the back. Even though this is unlocked, there's sliders sticking out of the core. And it's fine if they do that, because if you look in the cords, there's grooves, extra grooves cut, so they can do that. And that's what actually catches when these are sticking out of the core or one side. Those grooves won't allow this to pull out. So that's why the key doesn't allow you to gut it. So what I'm going to do is stick the gut key back in there, just so I don't drop all these sliders. Okay. So there's one passive sidebar, which is the key control there, and then there's two active sidebars here. The way I orient this, when you gut this, the key control is towards the Bible side, if you will, of the lock. I'm trying to get this back in there. Alright, so when I pulled this out, that was oriented down. So when the lock is in the door, it's mounted like that, so I'm calling that down. Alright, as I push this out, as you can see, there's the key control. It's on the bottom. So the way I do this is I orient it in front of the lock, because I usually count from this side. And then I'm going to turn this cylinder, when I'm gutting, I turn it up like this first, and I'm going to put it in my pinning tray. And one being here, 1 through 8, whatever, however you want to orient it. Then I'm going to drop the bottom. It's in the correct orientation, because this is toward the front of the lock. I'm going to drop a sidebar here. I'm going to drop a sidebar here. So that way I've maintained my order. Oops, and I did somehow drop a slider out. My gut key was not all the way in, but it's this one right here. And anyway, so we'll put it right there for right now. All right. So then when I'm gutting it, again, like just think of it sitting in here like this. The only difference is I'm always going to keep the top of the sliders that way. So I am going to pull this out and very carefully so I'm going to bump these sliders this way. Yep. And this is just my method. You don't have to use this method or direction or whatever you can remember. Alright, so then when I go the other direction, I can really just let gravity take them out. Or a better way to do it probably is stick this back in and then just use it like a follower. And I can tilt it up pretty steep, drop one out, drop that one out. Sometimes they won't stick, and you just give them a little help. Alright, so they're all out. One other key control item, because this key control here, remember that was toward the front that way, so let me get my key right. That fits right there on the key, but if you notice, there's another notch right here, and what that notch goes to is this. There's a little ball bearing right here. Well, it's not a ball bearing, it's more like a donut, and it's got a spring on it, so you can just kind of push up, you know, because there's a wire that actually runs here, turns, goes through it, and comes back. So when the key goes in, you can see it lifting it up, hopefully. See it lifted up and the wire going up, and then it drops back into that slot on the key. So that's another thing. If that's not in the right position, it will not allow this lock to rotate. So, and it probably pulls it back a little bit. I'm assuming it's whatever is interfering is right here. But that's the core. I think that's about it. It's either ball bearings or drill protection. Not real sure. I'm assuming it'll be ball bearings because I don't know what drilling this would do. But anyway, so the sidebars also do key retention. So when they retract in, they actually, the tips of them actually fit in this slot and grab the key so it can't be pulled out. So they kind of do two functions there. Alright, so, oops, I see a spring. I dropped it out of the sidebar. But stay right there and I'll get you later. How about that? Well, let's put you back in then. Okay. Alright, there he goes. It's back in. Don't want to lose that. Alright, so if you'll notice on the sliders, oh, daggone, there's some with 2 notches, some with 1, but they alternate. So this one's like got 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and it'll be the opposite over here. It'll be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. What those do, those notches interact with the beating of the key. The 1s follow this deep groove, and the 2s follow these. It's hard to tell, but there's 2 actually parallel lines that follow here, and I'll show that in a second. But then those, what they do is they move these up and down to interact with the sidebar, and the way that does it is there's 2 cuts. So if there's just 2 deep cuts, it's an unmastered, and those 2 deep cuts fit on this sidebar like so, and allows it to retract in. Okay, so here, if you look, there's only 2 deep cuts. There's a false cut. This one is a master disc, See that wide open area here? It is mastered. Then it has a false gate. This one only has one true gate, then a false gate. And again, we got master here. Pretty much all of them, I think 3 of them are mastered. So this is technically a red. Let's see. Yep, that one's mastered. But I think that may not be a false gate. That may be another true gate there, because it's fairly deep. So that one's mastered. This is the only one that does not have a false gate, one of the front ones, but it's a 2. But anyway, so I'm going to grab this first disc. This is a deep one. So what this one's going to do is going to follow the deep track. I'm going to try to show you how that works. It's a little... Alright, so this is, imagine if this is in the lock. As you push the key in, the key is going to follow that deep groove. It has a little trouble. There we go. So as you can see, it's moving up and down inside the lock, and it's moving upside down on that sidebar until it gets... See, this one goes all the way to the end. So once it gets towards the end, it should be... The 2 deep grooves should be aligned in the center for the sidebar. Okay? Same is true for the 2s. So this one has 2. Lay it on the key. So instead of following the deep groove, it's going to follow the shallow grooves. So where the other one went up and then down, this one kind of goes down then up. Oops. It's going to rise up and then come back down to when it's in about its position there. And again, that'll put those 2 center lines in line with the sidebar. Alright, so covered that. I think we've covered everything. I showed you those already. So, but that is how the 3KS works. Alright, if you have any other questions, please let me know. This was kind of spurred by a question that someone had to show that, and I should have probably shown it to begin with, but you know, locksport, we usually pick it and then we get it, but just showing you the workings of it now. Alright, thanks for watching.